Good morning, everyone. This is NPR News, and I'm Angela Davis. Glad to have you join us today. A reminder that it is our fall member drive here at NPR. Make a donation at nprnews.org or by calling us at 800-227-2811. Today is New Member Monday. And so today only, for every member who joins, we'll plant 10 trees. Yep, when you make a one-time or a monthly sustaining donation, we'll plant 10 trees through our partnership with the Future Forest Fund, a partnership with the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. So go ahead, make a difference this hour for the news and for Minnesota's forests by making a donation at nprnews.org or call us at 800-227-2811. On Mondays, we talk about money and the economy and how the economy is recovering from the hit it took during the pandemic. Today, we're taking a look at Black-owned businesses. After the murder of George Floyd, many people wanted to support economic development in Black communities. Banks and nonprofit organizations started loan and grant programs for entrepreneurs of color. People promised to shop at Black-owned stores, and magazines across Minnesota published lists of Black-owned restaurants. Today, we'll talk about whether that support showed up and if it made a difference. We know support and action are needed. Black Americans make up 13% of the U.S. population, but own only 2% of small businesses with more than one employee. And during the early months of the COVID-19 pandemic, 40% of Black-owned businesses closed, the highest percentage of any racial group. As we talk about this, I want to hear from you, too. Are you a Black business owner here in Minnesota? Did you see more support over the past year and a half? What difference did it make or not? You can call us at this number. It's 651-227-6000. Again, 651-227-6000, or tweet me at Angela Davis, NPR. NPR News senior economics contributor Chris Farrell is here with me, as he is every Monday. Good morning to you, Chris.
Good morning, Angela.
Later in the hour, Chris, we will talk to entrepreneur Win Morney, founder of Hercleone, which is a clothing and bedding company based in St. Paul. And we're also going to talk with Anisha Murphy, the founder of Just Law LLC, which is part of the Black Business Support Collective. But to start our conversation, we have Mateo McBee on the line. Mateo and his partner, Aaron Lucas, left Minneapolis for the small central Minnesota community of St. Joseph, there in Stearns County, where they opened the restaurant called Crew. That's spelled Krewe. That was in May of 2020. They also started a nonprofit farm to teach middle school students about agriculture and the food micro business. Good morning to you, Mateo.
Good morning.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing well. I think I'm about to be hungry real soon because we're going to talk about the food you're making there in St. Joseph. For those of us who have not experienced Mardi Gras there in New Orleans, tell us where the name Crew comes from.
So Crew is the name of the organizations that actually create the floats for Mardi Gras. So some of the big name ones, there's an all-women's one called Crew de Muses, and the other one people know a lot about is Crew de Zulu, and they used to throw the coconuts off the floats.
Okay. All right. So quite the name. Your mother is well known in the Twin Cities. Our listeners may know her. Mary McBee was the longtime principal there at Central High School in St. Paul. And I understand, and in addition to being a fabulous educator, she's also a great cook. So, Mateo, tell us about your favorite memories about the food that she made.
Absolutely. She is. And she says hello to you as well.
I hope she's enjoying retirement.
She is. So, we grew up, she came up from New Orleans in the late 60s, early 70s, and has pretty much cooked all of her life here for us and also for folks at school and things like that. And so red beans and rice, jambalaya, gumbo are probably three staples. And then her bread pudding recipe is actually on our menu right now.
So I'm thinking of little boy Mateo coming home from school. You have vivid memories of the food and the smell when she was cooking?
I do. We could smell it from the curb. You knew once you got out of the car, it was either use your red beans, gumbo, or the jambalaya. I knew it was going to be a good day when I got home.
So did you jump into the food business immediately, or did it happen for you later in life?
It happened a lot later in life. Food has always been a passion of mine. It was always something we did together at home. My grandfather was a chef on a cargo ship in New Orleans. And so when we visit him, food was always central to a lot of things that I've done. But I shied away from it until crash in 2008, lost my job and wanted to do something that I wasn't worried about money and what I loved. And so I enrolled at culinary school at the Art Institutes in Minneapolis, and I haven't done anything since.
So you grew up in the Twin Cities. How do you end up opening a restaurant in Stearns County in St. Joseph?
Yes. It sounds weird, but I met a pastor in a bar.
Okay.
About 7 years ago. And through some conversation over about 3 or 4 years, I was at the point where I wanted to look for land to grow food and then actually bring it back to the cities and sell to BIPOC and Black-owned businesses. And ended up having an opportunity to open a restaurant called Model Citizen in New London with Aaron. And we were there for about 2 years. And then we got an opportunity to come to St. Joseph and build both of our dreams here with Crew and our bakery, Flour and Flour. So
what's been the response from the community members there?
It's been amazing. The community here is very, very supportive. We moved into a fairly sizable central Minnesota metropolitan location just outside of St. Cloud. And so we moved from about 7,000 or 8,000 for the first restaurant to over 160,000 in this area. And I believe that New Orleans is a somewhat of a mystery as well as comforting for a lot of people. It's a big tourist destination, and so the food is not so far away from what they normally would have, maybe just put together in a different way.
So, Mateo, there was a lot of talk after George Floyd's murder about a racial reckoning and a renewed effort to support Black-owned businesses. Have you seen that support from your customers?
We have. We are not shy about being inclusive and being a safe space for people of color here in this, largely white rural community. And we have seen the response, and I've personally gotten messages from people who are thanking us for being in this community and bringing some diversity of food and thought to the area.
And tell us about, the initial challenge, the big barrier for many folks is funding. So was funding a challenge, and how have you made that work?
It was. It's hard sometimes for those in charge of the money to kind of see what the vision is. And so we had bounced around a little bit until we landed on a really awesome banker at Midwest Bank in St. Cloud. And they have been absolute partners with us in guiding us through this operation. It was not something that we were very familiar with from building something like this from the absolute ground up. And our banker, Devin Larson, was just absolutely amazing at helping us through this process. And we've also had some help from the Initiative Foundation, as well as some other organizations within the county and city to assist in helping us.
I want to bring Chris Farrell in. Chris, as you listen to Mateo's story about opening a restaurant, what do you hear there?
A couple things, but I just have to say, Mateo, your grandfather was a cook, the chef on a cargo ship. So I used to be a merchant seaman in another life. And the most important person on a ship
Chris knows
is
everybody.
the cook. It is the cook. That is the person that everybody treats well and wants the cook to treat them well, too. Yes.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I just had to say that, Angela.
Wow.
Just before.
Thank you.
But, it's part of what I hear is that when there is financing, it typically is a mix of private and then some philanthropy or public, the Initiative Fund backed by philanthropy. But they're basically a lot of Black-owned businesses historically. They've been disconnected from the traditional sources of funding, going to some wealthy people in an area, angel investors, even some venture capital, and your larger banks here. It just don't have a whole lot of interest. And even the system, and I don't know if this was Mateo's experience, but, the system that's been growing up of incubators, accelerators, co-sharing workspaces, until the George Floyd tragedy, a lot of those institutions really didn't pay a whole lot of attention to Black-owned businesses.
Well, we know, Chris, that restaurants have a high failure rate. Mateo, cover your ears here. And overall, businesses started by Black entrepreneurs, they fail at a higher rate compared to white-owned businesses. So what are some of the reasons for that?
Well, a lot of it has to do with this lack of banking relationships, financing relationships, just really not having much money. And so when something tough comes along, they're really vulnerable. And we really saw that, Angela, when you look at the Paycheck Protection Program that came out early during the pandemic, and this was to try and help small businesses stay in business. And according to the head of the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia, 83% of loans went to white-owned businesses, and that's compared to 1.9% that went to Black-owned owners. And when I would talk to Black business owners, they would say, we don't have the accounting relationships. We don't have the banking relationships. We didn't have the legal relationships that you really needed to have in order to tap into that money.
Mateo, before we let you go, I want to make sure you tell us more about this nonprofit that you and your partner, Aaron Lucas, have started called Model Citizen, because you want to work with some children. Tell us about that.
We do. We have, right now we currently have 1 acre of land in Paynesville that we are growing inside of a 40 by 100 foot high tunnel. The ultimate goal is to create a community farm incubator, technological space out there on about 7 or 8 acres where we can bring community members and kids from the city, marginalized communities together and bridge rural and urban youth together around farming sustainability, technology, and entrepreneurship. So it's to build the idea is to actually create the model citizen, someone that's a steward of the land, as well as understands where their food comes from and understands about how vital community is.
I love it. And I love the opportunity to talk with you and learn more about your restaurant there in St. Joseph called Crew. We've been talking with Mateo McBee, the owner of Crew there in St. Joseph, Minnesota. And thank you so much. And we wish you well.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
We have another business owner on the line. We're talking with Wen Moyney. Wen is the founder of Herculeon, which is a biology-based textile clothing and bedding company based in St. Paul. Good morning to you, Wen, and welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Hi. When the producers are like, Angela, you should talk to this guy named Wen. He has these sheets. I was like, what? So, Wen, first tell us exactly what Herculeon is and the products that you create and sell.
Yeah, so typically when people design products, they design it from their perspective, then sell it to the customers. But for me, I was designing from the customer's experience of life. And then I pretty much let's say for bed sheets, the first one we made was based on one statistics. Single men under the age of 30 on average wash their bed sheets every 3 months.
Hold on.
And so,
wait a minute. You said single men under the age of 30, they wash their bed sheets once a month. That's what research shows.
Once every 3 months.
Once every 3 months. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
To start with that. Okay. Then what happened?
So with that number, I was like, I need to make bed sheets for men.
Thank you.
So since they're not going to wash their sheets, let me find a way to make sheets that don't have to wash so much, but still isn't so gross. And so that's kind of how I look at designing of products, clothing, shirts. I mean, I have shirts I can wear for 100 days. I have underwear that I can wear for 7 days. I have socks that I can wear for weeks. So I kind of design it based on user experience, and that's kind of what I do.
So it's bed sheets, but it's also shirts as well. There are other types of things?
Yeah, so we have shirts, bed sheets. We just had a shipment of towels, the world's cleanest towels. These ones are for people that have either have acne or just don't want to, because your towel is one of the dirtiest things you touch yourself with every day. Mm-hmm. And so people need to wash it every 2 days, but most people don't do that. So every time you dry yourself off, you're actually making yourself smell bad again really quick. Like you're adding bacteria back onto your skin to make yourself smell bad faster, which makes you have to shower more often. So we made this towel, which essentially kind of not only does it keep itself clean, when you dry yourself off, it actually will help reduce the bacteria on your skin that you might have missed during the shower.
So it's science. I call this biology-based textile. So it's the materials used to make these fabrics that allow it to be different and better. Yes.
We use crazy materials. We have a face mask that has collagen in it because people worry about acne and maybe aging. So we have collagen-infused face masks. So we have a lot of things that are just based on crazy materials that are designed to make your life better.
So you actually started this business in 2017, and it really took off a few years later. What do you think boosted the business? What helped it take off?
Well, I think what really helped a lot was finally getting customers that were finding the customers was the hardest part. Customers that were interested in what I was making, and I think also for me, just in general, actually believing that what I'm making is worth putting money into, like investing in marketing, because I had a lot of doubts that this was going to work out. But finally, after I did my first Kickstarter, or my second Kickstarter, I got $3,000, and I was like, wow, people actually want to buy this. Great, okay, let's make more. And like that was the shirt Kickstarter, and that I wanted to raise like $5,000. I got $50,000, and so far it's been I think 2 years since that happened, and I've had like only 5 people return their shirts. So I've had hundreds of shirts sold, and
That's
5
great.
returns in the time. So it's been amazing.
So what did the pandemic do to your business? How did that affect your company?
Well, it kind of ruined my life a little bit as far as like shipping goes. The world's shipping situation is quite terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I think I saw a number that said 20,000 containers in the ocean in LA port waiting to get into the port to get unpacked. There's so much delay everywhere. And a lot of people don't understand how shipping works, because one of the ways shipping works is that when you're on a flight, let's say a Delta flight, like half the money that Delta makes is on the containers or the packages underneath the flight. And so now that a lot of people are not traveling internationally, all those packages are not being shipped on planes anymore. They're not shipped on boats. And so shipping prices, boat prices have gone going through the roof. And so, COVID prices went like skyrocketed for shipping prices. And delays, every day it's a delay. Factories are going offline, coming back 2 weeks later. So it's just been really challenging to deal with all the different logistics problems.
Now, when I know that your company and another Minnesota company, you guys won a $1.2 million prize in this year's Meta $1 Million Challenge. How did that affect your business?
Well, I haven't received the money yet, so not much. I mean,
it's coming though, right?
For a long time. Yeah, I hope so. I mean, it's funny because I actually went and messed with another person and say, I'm like, hey, did you get your money? She's like, honestly, I haven't heard from them yet. I'm like, did we win anything? I was like, I mean, honestly, we might not have. Who knows? Like it's funny. It was funny to us.
I think you'll hear from them today, hopefully.
Yeah, well, I hope so.
So
okay, we're still pushing. We're still kicking in. No worries.
But you were cited, obviously, for doing something excellent. So after George Floyd's murder, many companies, nonprofits, and other institutions made statements committing to supporting more Black-owned businesses. Have you seen that happen, and has there been any impact from this racial reckoning?
Yes and no. So yes, I saw a lot of companies make the commitment, and I think the follow through was a lot more shaky on a lot of companies' parts. I mean, like Media, for example, Media has been doing this pre George Floyd, so they're not new to the game. And like the only company I'm really aware of that's actually making a move is the Comcast. I think Xfinity. They actually have had to put a lot of programs in place to actually help minority BIPOC businesses get assistance. But I mean, yeah, I think a lot of companies were really excited or really in their feelings about helping, and then I don't think a lot of them really took the time to learn about how important their commitment would have been if they actually followed through. So a lot of companies probably didn't follow through as they could have.
So, Chris, what stands out to you about what you've just heard from Wen and developing this very unique textile company?
Well, I mean, there's a couple things. I mean, one of you think, what does an entrepreneur do? An entrepreneur solves a problem. Mm-hmm. And I could hear you recoil about single men in every 3 months. So, I mean, there's definitely
washing
a problem there.
Yeah.
Yes, that solving that problem. And he really brought alive these supply chain issues. It's kind of an abstract term, right? Supply chain issues. What does that really mean? But, this is, businesses, big businesses, all the way down to small companies. I mean, they really are having trouble getting the materials that they need in order to do their products. But the one thing I do really want to emphasize, Angela, is something that you said about follow through, which is, I think, a lot of senior leadership and a lot of organizations said we need to do better. And the real question is, how much of their capital within the organization are they exerting farther down the ranks, middle management, open our vendors, open who we buy from, let's really follow through on these purchase orders and broadening our vendors. So we really do need to see a much more durable response.
We know how important groups like MEDA are in supporting new minority-owned businesses. They've been doing great work in our state for a long time. And then it's MEDA, and Chris, I'm quizzing myself. It's Metropolitan Economic Development Association.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah. Tell us about the work that you've seen MEDA do with minority-owned businesses here in Minnesota.
Well, I think they what they've done is a very good job of highlighting through competitions, but mostly it's with the training, the knowledge about what it takes to start a business, running their classes, and they have some loan capability, providing some money. But I think it's just, there's a lot that goes into running a small business. There's so many things to learn, and so that's really one of the important things that they're doing is they're providing a forum for knowledge transfer, and to say, hey, you can do this. You got an idea? You solving a problem? Here's some of the things you need to know. So that knowledge transfer is incredibly important.
Chris, in the introduction, I cited the statistic that Black business ownership declined by more than 40% nationally, and that was the largest drop of any other racial group. What can you tell me about that or more about that?
Well, it really gets down to not having much cash flow, having businesses that were in the vulnerable sectors of the economy that were hit particularly hard, like leisure and hospitality, restaurant business. And it's also, just the historic discrimination, which really is the key, just simply not having that much wealth behind a lot of these businesses, very vulnerable. But the thing is, Angela, what we have seen is a surge in Black-owned businesses. And there was a recent study that came out, published through the National Bureau of Economic Research, and it looked at 8 cities. And where there are cities that have a large Black population, you're seeing a surge in small business creation. A lot of it is because it's the best opportunity. Lost your job, not going to be easy to get another job, start a business. Nevertheless, it's Black-owned businesses on Main Street in many metropolitan areas are leading the recovery.
When before I let you go, what's next for Herculeon? What's your next? Do you have any new products coming or some new marketing ideas? What do you see as the next big goal for your company?
Well, we're real quick to add to what you guys are talking about. I think with Black-owned businesses, the most important thing it's Black entrepreneurship, I think, is the most important thing we as a group can do to alleviate the experience of the life we have in America. So I think that's very important that a lot of companies actually do follow through with what their promises were. But to answer your question, personally, we're working right now. I'm away to Europe to have a meeting with a company in Germany and another one in London. And I'm working on this, the world's craziest bed sheets. It's going to be $100,000 per set of sheets. It's going to be it's groundbreaking. It's going to be amazing. It's going to do things that you didn't know sheets could do.
Oh, wow.
And,
you're selling it, Wen. You're selling it.
They're going to blow you. Wait to hear about these sheets. You will hear about it. I won't have to tell you about it. You will find out. And it will be crazy.
Okay.
It will be, and the customers are lining up already for $100,000 bed sheets. I already have to waiting for this expensive, groundbreaking that they don't know what it is, but they know it's going to be great. So it's going to be awesome.
In 2022, when is this happening?
It could happen this year, but I'm going to push it up to next year because I want to get my ducks in a row before I release this. The big boom is what they're calling this sheets.
All right. Well,
they're going to change the world. Trust me, they're going to change the world here.
All right. We have your phone number, so I'm going to check in with you again and see what's going on there.
Sounds good.
Thank you. We've been talking with Wen Moiney, the founder of Herculeon, and that's spelled, everybody, HERCLEON, Herculeon, a biology-based textile clothing and bedding company based in St. Paul, Minnesota. All right, let's keep this conversation going about Black-owned businesses and how they're doing. Chris Farrell is with me, and we have another guest to bring into the conversation. Anisha Murphy is with us. Anisha is the founder of Just Law, LLC, which is part of the Black Business Support Collective. Good morning to you. Welcome back to the program, Anisha.
Good morning, Angela. How are you?
I'm doing okay. We talked a year ago on this program. And so you've been keeping an eye on things and you've been very busy. But first, tell us, what does the Black Business Support Collective do?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the Black Business Support Collective is represented of several business organizations supporting Black-owned businesses in the local Twin Cities market. So inclusive of the group is the African American Leadership Forum, the Black Women's Wealth Alliance, which is ran by Kenya McKnight Ahad, Social Impact Strategies Group, which is ran by Elaine Rasmussen, West Broadway Business Area Coalition, which is ran by Felicia Perry, NDC Neighborhood Development Center, which is ran by Renee Dosman, and then myself, Just Law LLC, which is ran by Anish Murphy.
So,
and
a lot of people working together. Yeah, I love this partnership, this collaboration. And what's the goal? What are you trying to do?
Really to create solutions and provide resources to Black-owned businesses in light of both the pandemic and also the civil unrest. We came together really after the first round of the Paycheck Protection Program and noticed that there was a gap in the marketplace for support, like that grassroots support for Black-owned businesses that needed, the back-end support, whether it was legal, financial, whether it was support accessing programs such as the Paycheck Protection Program or some of these state-ran programs such as DEED, et cetera, to really help them access not only capital but just general business support while dismantling the barriers for these businesses. And
I remember those early conversations, just the paperwork and the process was very challenging for many people. Anisha, are you still there?
Absolutely. I think the challenge prior to the pandemic was there, right? Like Black-owned businesses had an issue accessing capital. Black-owned businesses had an issue accessing resources prior to the pandemic. And so I think the pandemic just exacerbated the reality that there needed to be some concerted, support and wraparound services put to these businesses to make sure that they not only, are growing, but they're thriving as well.
So during the summer of 2020, after George Floyd was murdered, we saw many corporations, institutions, individuals pledging to do more to support Black-owned businesses. Did that happen? Did the support actually match, the rhetoric?
Well, I think the numbers don't lie. I think that so many organizations came out and made specific efforts to Black-owned businesses, and I think the numbers aren't matching. I do think that it's in progress, though. I think that, that organizations like the BBSC is doing work on the ground to support these businesses, but I do think corporations, while they have made efforts, it's still in progress. And we've seen the numbers come out of the Center for Economic Inclusion and other studies that have shown that while they have made these concerted efforts, that they still have to make good on them.
So when you talk about the numbers, they don't match, are you talking about the number of Black-owned businesses that have closed?
Well, no, I think those numbers are real. The concerted efforts and the numbers around supporting Black-owned businesses. So there have been many support initiatives that have said that they're making donations to Black-owned businesses or they're doing spin with Black-owned businesses, et cetera. And I don't think those numbers match. I think the reality of these Black businesses that have closed in light of COVID are real, but there are also efforts to help get the businesses that are in the process of either rebuilding or sustaining their businesses in light of COVID as well.
So some folks haven't followed through with their promises yet.
Yeah, but I think it's in progress.
Mm-hmm. All right,
everything is an act of progress, and I think the BBSC has been actively not only on the ground providing that grassroots support, but creating avenues and working with corporations and other organizations that are local to make sure that they stand true to the promises that were made in 2020.
All right, Anisha, stay with us. We want to take a phone call from one of our listeners as we talk about Black business owners and how they're doing, if they're surviving or struggling, or if they receive the support that many institutions pledge to give them during the pandemic and after George Floyd's murder. Let's take a phone call from Brooklyn Park where Alan is on the phone. And Alan, what did you want to share with us this morning?
Good morning, and
Hi.
Thanks for the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I echo what your last caller had said. I am a Black-owned business. I do small repairs of commercial and residential properties, and I experienced a tightening of credit from financial institution that pledged more. Even my own bank, I'm not going to say the name, but unless you want me to, but said, we're going to do better. And I banked at this bank for over 10 years and could not I got 10% of what the Small Business Administration said I should have received from the Paycheck Protection Program, and could not get my application to go through for the second round. And I had other credit cards that reduced my credit line by 90% with no default on them cards. Mm-hmm. So I experienced the opposite of what they said. And then, of course, your credit, when you utilize more credit, your score drops. Mm-hmm. And then they say, you're not eligible because your credit score. And so it's, you're setting up for failure with they're saying one thing and doing the opposite.
And Ellen, in talking with other Black business owners, are you hearing similar stories, particularly when it comes to like loans and credit lines?
Yes. We actually compared friends of ours that wasn't people of color, and they got actually, like I said, 10 to 100% more than we received, those of us eligible to receive. It's crazy out here, because when you ask for expiration or even to go over your documents, they say, we destroyed them. And so I'm going to actually put it online to show these financial institutions that's pledged more, who actually I feel was discriminating against small minority-owned business. It's not just Black-owned business, it's minority-owned business, period.
All right, that's Alan in Brooklyn Park. Alan, thank you for calling in and sharing what you've experienced. Let's take another phone call before we get back to our guest in Minneapolis. Samantha is on the phone. And Samantha, what did you want to share with us about Black-owned businesses?
Hey, Angela. It's been a while since I talked with you, actually.
Is this Samantha, the fashion designer?
It absolutely is. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you? How is your business going?
The last year and a half has been very weird. Like, between having to obviously not be able to see my custom clients, which is what I make my money off of, during the uprising, a lot more people paid attention. And then the second people stopped paying attention to it on the news, Black businesses like indie designers and whatever just kind of stopped getting attention, which is what we were asking them not to do. Like, hey, we know that we're in the forefront now. Please don't forget us. And then they kind of did.
So a lot of people pivoted to do different things. What have you done or had to do to continue, to stay alive?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I made masks. I mean, I, like other designers, made masks for free for the first couple of months for, like, people who were immunocompromised and people in hospitals. And then I started making them for people who needed them once they were like, no, I should wear a mask out in public. So that kept the lights on. I also started doing, like, classes and online appearances, but mostly just kind of, like, education stuff. I didn't start seeing clients again until maybe 4 months ago. It's been interesting and weird to kind of rework my business model. And now that I'm starting to see clients again, it's really good, but also I'm still apprehensive.
And Samantha, tell me your last name again.
Ray.
Samantha Ray. And you gained a national audience, right? Because you competed on a reality TV show.
Yes, I did.
Right. Tell me which one it was. Tell me which one again.
Project Runway.
Okay. So what are you hearing in this conversation, or what do you want people to know about supporting Black-owned businesses?
I want to make sure it's not temporary, because I feel like every time something comes up in the news, it's let's support Black businesses right now. It lasts maybe a couple of weeks to a year, and then it just disappears. And then when it's brought up again, people are like, oh, this again? It's only really important for people who aren't Black when it's a global issue or a national issue. And I want people to realize that we shouldn't be forgotten. We are your neighbors. We're trying our best to contribute to society the same way everyone else is. Please respect us and don't forget us.
Samantha, thank you for taking time to call in. That's fashion designer Samantha Ray in Minneapolis. Proud of you. Anisha, what do you hear in her story? And the previous caller, what he said, that he's actually, it's gotten harder for him.
Well, I think the realities and the stories is what we heard. I mean, that's the truth, is that, it was already hard post-COVID or pre-COVID. And it's just harder now that we have or are living in a COVID society. So I think it takes all of us working collectively to help dismantle those barriers that Black-owned businesses face. And I think it's time out for organizations and systems to continue to benefit off of the Black community or a Black struggle without actually putting sort of resources around it. And so I think that both what Samantha said and the caller before is 100% true. And how do we work collaboratively together to dismantle those barriers?
Well, Anisha, I'll let you get back to work. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate the work that you're doing. That is Anisha Murphy, the founder of Just Law, LLC, which is part of the Black Business Support Collective. Thank you again for your time today. Thanks for listening to a recording of my live radio show on NPR News. A reminder, if you want to catch the show in real time, tune in and call in at a new time, 9 a.m. weekdays on NPR News.